Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Falls Township Zoning Hearing Board for December 8th, 2020 on Zoom. We are going to have a little bit of shift in the agenda. Petition number 5 is requested to be moved up for Continuous Materials LLC. They'll be heard number 3 as of right now. Okay, so we are going to ask that the petitioners for number 1, Kathleen and Robert Madden, be brought into the room.
Bringing them in now.
Thank you. Scott, I see it's snowing where you are. Good evening, Mrs. Madden.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you? Just you tonight?
It's just me. My husband's stuck at the office, so.
Okay, not a problem. So this is petition number 1, Kathleen and Robert Madden, 46 Main Street, Fallsington, PA, requesting a dimensional variance to construct a 54-inch high fence within the secondary front yard of Old Locust Avenue. Mrs. Madden, I'm going to have you sworn in by our court reporter now.
Okay.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to mark some of the exhibits for your petition with our solicitor, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal ZHB 1. 2 will be the pool permit plan submitted in regards to this application. 3 will be the Falls Township Zoom notification to the applicant. 4 will be the applicant and neighbor notification letters as required. 5 will be 4 pages containing 4 colored photographs, one of which shows that the property was posted for tonight's meeting. 6 will be proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times showing this matter was published November 24th and then again December 1st, 2020. I believe that is all the board exhibits, Mr. Chairman, and I'm satisfied this matter can proceed.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Okay, Kathleen, if you could walk us through what's going on.
Well, we were on last month's meeting and we discussed the pool, which that was passed through. They attached the fence because of any modifications that we needed to do with the fence. Had we known that I guess a variance would be part of that, we would have taken care of that at the time. So it's just basic changes. It's essentially what we have now. However, I do know that Ed provided me with some specs on spacing. So it's basically just that we need to clear the fence for a little bit of a remodel so it meets code.
Great. Okay, thank you,
Sure.
Mrs. Megan. I'm going to open up just in case some of our board might have some questions for you. Go with Bill.
The only question I have is that you understand about the site triangle, and you would have to still follow the same lines of your existing fence with the new fence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Yes,
Thanks,
we
Bill.
went through that before, so it's the same thing. Mhm.
Great.
Thank you.
Scott, please. So I'm sorry, Scott, if you have any questions. You're muted.
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you, Al.
I have none. And Ed is the one thing I do have, I'm sorry, is right here on the plan. That is right where it's going to go, Ed. Because Ed was saying something has to be on an angle, get out of that slight triangle.
Are you speaking to me?
Ed Newbauer, because he
Yeah,
mentioned,
he was-
They have to put it the same way. They're going to have to cut in a 45 up by their driveway. That's the only issue they're going to have. But if they put it the same way, they're pretty good.
all right, so we'll put it in the same way. Okay,
Yeah, they're going to have to cut in 45 like they did before.
okay, perfect. Thanks, Ed.
Doug?
I have no questions, Dan.
Yeah, I have no questions. I think everybody's made it pretty clear to you that, the way the fence is going to go back in. And
Okay.
The way it was, so cool.
Okay.
Is there any public comments, questions on here tonight?
Comment.
Thank you. And Matt, we received nothing from the township as far as this petition?
No comments from the township.
Great. Okay, thank you. Without any further board comments, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that the application of Kathleen and Robert Mannon requesting a dimensional variance from section 209-37C2 of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to construct a 54-inch fence within the secondary front yard of Old Locust Avenue at the property located at 46 Main Street, Fallsington, Pennsylvania, 19054, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Scott, if you could pull the board?
Myself, yes. Al,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and Dan.
Yes. Okay, Mrs. Madden, so the petition's been approved.
Great. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Yep,
I appreciate it.
Yep.
So now I can leave the whole shebang, right?
You're welcome to stay, but you can pretty much leave.
Thank you. You guys all have a nice holiday.
Thanks.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Which petition would you like brought in?
It'll be number 2 for Stephen Conkey.
All right, number 2. All right, stand by.
Good evening, Mr. Conkey.
Good evening. How are you?
Excellent. Okay, this is petition number 2, Stephen Conkey, 2 Linden Lane, Levittown, PA, requesting a dimensional variance for a fence in the secondary front yard. Mr. Conkey, before we get started here, I'm going to have you sworn in by our court reporter.
Yep.
Next voice you hear will be hers.
Mr. Conkey, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conkey. Now we're going to mark some of the exhibits that go towards a petition, and then we're going to turn it over to you, okay?
Great.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB 1. 2 will be the permit denial letter from Falls Township dated October 28, 2020. 3 is the hardship letter submitted by the applicant. 4 is the permit application. 5 is a plot plan. 6 is a letter from the Lower Bucks Joint Municipal Authority. 7 is the applicant and neighbor notification letters as required. 8 is the Zoom notification to the applicant. 9 is 4 pages containing 4 colored photographs, one of which shows that the property was posted as required. And last is 10 is the proof of publication of the Bucks County Courier Times showing this matter was published November 24th and then again December 1st, 2020. And with all that, Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notices have been satisfied and this matter can proceed.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Mr. Conkey, it's you now. What's going on with the fence?
Well, thanks for taking the time to see me this evening. I do appreciate it. My wife, Rachel, and I are here to request a dimensional variance for a fence in the secondary front yard like we had just discussed. With your permission, I'd like to extend my fence into the secondary front yard, a 54-inch see-through aluminum style pool fence. And I would also like to slightly extend the rear privacy fence, which is a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence, just slightly into the secondary front yard for uniformity reasons. So the reasons why I wanted to request these variances were, I do have 2 dogs. They're both pretty athletic. So that's why I'm requesting that the fence in the secondary front yard be of a 54-inch height rather than the allowable 48 inches, just in case they were to try to jump over, even though I don't think that would be a problem either way. I just want to be safe. Also, my wife and I are about to have children, and we'd like to kind of have a nice secure area for the kids to play and live their lives in. And then finally, just to add a little bit more security to the property. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Conkey.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to open it up for some questions from our board members.
Great.
Bill?
The only question I would have is, you're fully aware of the site triangle and the setback you have with the site triangle?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott?
I have nothing at this time.
All right. Al?
No, nothing.
Doug?
I have nothing, Dan.
Yeah, I have no questions. Pretty straightforward what you're looking to do. Are there any public comments, questions?
No public comment.
Great. And Matt, did we receive any correspondence through the township about this petition?
No correspondence.
Okay, great. Without any further...
Dan, can I say something? Can I say something, Dan?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I just want to give you a heads up. I talked to Steven about the back fence where it's going to be a 6-foot privacy fence about his neighbor's driveway on Lakeside Drive. I told him about the 15 feet up. He can't block that site triangle from pulling out of the driveway, his neighbor's property. So I explained that to him, so he understands. Okay.
Yep. So you'd have to adhere to, obviously, Stephen, the site triangle rules for as far as the driveway dimensionality and stuff like that. So
absolutely. I'd like to thank Ed for coming out. He was very helpful.
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, we don't want to put anything in that had to be moved anyway. So
absolutely.
Better safe than sorry, and keep everybody safe backing out and everything else too. I'm sure you try to be a good neighbor, so that's great.
Of course.
Awesome. Okay. So any further comments or questions from the board? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that the application of Stephen Conkey requesting a dimensional variance from section 20937C2 of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to construct a fence in the secondary front yard of the property located at 2 Linden Lane, Levittown, Pennsylvania, 19054, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board. Said fence must not encroach into the site triangle and must comply with the measurements of setback requirements to be determined by the Falls Township zoning officer.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Poll the board, please, Doug. Scott.
Myself, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And Dan?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Conkey, your petition has been approved. You'll receive a letter from our solicitor's office about your next steps.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. You guys have a great holiday.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to load in petition 5.
Okay, petition 5, we're starting to load in.
Okay, thank you. Is that everybody?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Murphy. This is petition number 5, Continues Materials LLC, 1000 New Ford Mill Road, Marsville, PA 19067, requesting dimensional variances to allow the proposed building setback to be 30 foot instead of the required 100-foot setback. Mr. Murphy, you have some witnesses you'd like to have sworn in now?
Yes, I've spoken with your solicitor today, and with the board's permission, the thought would be to allow me to do almost like an executive summary offer of proof, and then at the end, ask those witnesses that will have sworn to confirm the accuracy of the summary that I would provide. So I'm happy to have the potential witnesses sworn if you'd like. And
Absolutely. If they're gonna attest anything, then we're gonna have
yeah,
this.
that's fine. And if you'd like me to identify them, I can do so.
They can all swear in group.
We'll do it one at a time. Fine.
Yep, instead of one at a time. So, and Karen has the names, I believe now. So,
Yeah, if you could just tell me the names, Mr. Murphy, of who is being sworn.
Alan Bradshaw,
Okay.
ALLANBRADSHAW, David Lewis, Scott Perrin, PERIN, Tim Stout, STOUT. Tim is the engineer for the project. Alan Bradshaw is the Senior Vice President of Operations for Continuous, the applicant. David Lewis is the Director of Engineering and Construction for Continuous, and Scott Perrin is the Area Director of Waste Management, which is the property owner.
Okay.
I'm not seeing Scott Perry on screen. Am I?
I don't see him either.
I don't see him either.
Is Mr. Lang, is Tim Stout being sworn in also?
Yes, he
You
is.
mentioned him, I'm sorry. I don't know if you mentioned him.
Okay, so
Yep.
we're going without Karen, just who we have now?
Well, yes, that's fine. And just so everyone is aware, you'll see Tom Jennings on the screen. Tom is counsel to both Waste Management and Continuous as well. You may be familiar with Tom, but Tom's going to monitor to make sure I do everything right. I'm not going to say much.
Okay.
Okay. The witnesses, do you all swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
David, you want to unmute yourself?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Murphy, before you get rolling, obviously, we're going to have some of the townships.
Yeah, Keith is going to mark some of the board exhibits. Understood.
Yes, and also, there's no, is there any public that we need to bring in on this at this time, or?
Asking about
No, we have, everybody is in
Okay, great.
for this agenda item.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we'll mark the board exhibits for the petition now, Mr. Murphy, and then. We'll
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB1, along with the outline for relief by petitioner. 2 will be a letter from Waste Management dated November 10th, 2020 in regards to this petition. 3 is the applicant Zoom notification. 4 will be 3 pages containing 3 colored photographs, one of which shows the property was posted as required. 5 are the plans submitted in regards to this application. 6 will be proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times, showing that this matter was published November 24th and then again December 1st, 2020. Mr. Murphy, can I ask you, do you have pre-marked exhibits?
No.
Okay.
But I do have, Keith, the certificate of service of notice that I shared with you. Whether you mark that as your exhibit or mine, we should do that.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark your certificate of service as A1 for applicant 1.
Okay.
A2 will be the notice of meeting that was, I'm going to assume that was sent to the adjoining or abutting property owners.
Correct.
Perfect. I'll ask you just to clarify. This letter sets forth the location, sets forth the date and the fact that it's being held via Zoom. That is appropriate. And then lastly, I'm going to mark A3, the list of adjacent property owners that Mr. Murphy, I'm going to ask that A2 was sent to.
That is correct.
Okay. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notice have been satisfied. This matter can proceed forward.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Murphy, all yours.
Good evening and thank you. As you've seen in the application itself, I'm here this evening on behalf of Continuous Materials. Continuous is proposing to lease approximately 10 acres from Waste Management of Pennsylvania as depicted on the plan that accompanied the application. The area of the lease comprises 2 separate but contiguous tax parcels that we've identified in the application, 13-47-99 and 13-47-128. Part of the parcel is zoned SL sanitary landfill, and the other piece of it is zoned HI heavy industrial. Combined, those parcels that we're leasing, the 10 acres, maintains a little over almost 7,900 linear feet of frontage along New Ford Mill Road. And as you've seen from the application, what is being proposed here is the construction of two separate buildings, one about 238,000 square feet and the other a 7,200 square foot freestanding building. The larger of the two buildings is intended to be used for the construction operation of an indoor recycled products manufacturing facility. The smaller of the two buildings would be a two-story office building. The interesting thing about the production facility is that it's designed to extract from the waste stream what we've referred to as mixed waste paper and plastic materials. And then after they have been extracted, they would then be recycled and converted into what Continuous refers to as everboard, which is a substrate 4x8 panel that would be used for roofing. So it's a very green operation in the sense that we are taking out of the waste stream these mixed waste papers and plastics, which then get converted into something productive and also reduces the amount of the waste that ultimately goes to the adjacent landfill. So it seems to be something that should be and is encouraged. And this is one of many initiatives that Continuous is pursuing, not just in Falls, but elsewhere, in order to try to maximize the amount of space that remains available in the landfill and to convert a green usable product. So as you can see from the plan, what is being proposed, and the reason we're in front of you tonight, is we're seeking a reduction in the front yard setback. I don't know if Tim wants to share the plan, if that's possible, or everybody should have the plan in front of them. But if people would want to see it on the screen, Tim, you want to share that plan quickly? Sure. And we can do that?
Sure.
So Tim now has shared the screen, and as you can see, the building is long and narrow and sort of follows the contour of the property as it abuts New Ford Mill Road. And as we've described it in the application, we've sought a front yard setback rather than pushing the building further back off the property so as to avoid having a conflict with the existing leachate line and wetlands, and also to minimize the amount of additional grading in that same area. So we think there are good environmental reasons why we want to keep the building closer to New Ford Mill Road. Those of you, I think, that are familiar know this property well. It's what everyone has referred to over the years as the offices of the Turkey Hill offices of waste management. So that's a landmark that a lot of you would be familiar with. So that's essentially the nature of the application. The use is a permitted one in the district, so we're not seeking any use relief. It's simply a dimensional relief for the reduced front yard setback for the reasons that I've indicated. And Tim is showing the cursor along the plan, as you can see, where that front yard setback would be. There still is a considerable distance beyond that setback before you get to the edge of New Ford Mill Road. So we think all in all that the proposal is appropriate given the location, the wetlands and the leachate line to the rear, and avoiding more detailed or heavy grading in the back. So that would be the essential nature of the application that's in front of you this evening. As the board is well aware, this is only the first step of the process. If we were fortunate enough to get relief, we would have to start the land development review and approval process, which is a whole other submission. And subject to all the other host of reviews by township consultants and outside agencies. So this is our first step to move the project forward, but everyone is real pleased and excited about the opportunity to create a real green product and benefit everyone, including providing more lifetime in the landfill. I'll ask either Alan Bradshaw or David Lewis on behalf of Continuous. Now that you've been sworn, is there anything in the summary that I've just provided that you would want to add or comment upon, or do you think what I said is a fair summary of the nature of the application?
This is Alan Bradshaw. I say that you summarized it very well. I don't have anything to change, but I'm certainly open to questions from the group. So thank you.
Tim Stout, on behalf of you as the engineer for the project and preparing the plan that's in front of everybody, is there anything else you feel you'd like to add to the summary I've already provided?
No, I think that was a very good description there, Ed. I'm in agreement with that.
If any board members have any questions for any of us, David, Alan, Tim, or I, we're happy to address them. But I think that is pure and simple the nature of the request here this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. We are now at this point going to open it up for some questions from our board members. Bill, start with you.
I have none.
Okay, Scott?
Yeah, just looking at the building, and I see the driveway, what looks like a driveway out in the front by the roadway. I guess I'm concerned that you're going to have the full trash stream is going to be flowing through this building. I don't see any place for trucks loading and unloading and all that extra vehicular traffic. Just wondered about how that's going to happen here on site.
Yeah, this is Alan. I can speak to that, and others can chime in. I'm assuming you're referring, Scott, to the entrance that the cursor was on the what's called Q Road.
Okay, I see you there.
So
I don't think that's what he was referring to. I think he was referring to the entrance on Newford Mill. So I think that's
what I was
there.
Okay, we have no trucks entering off of New. That's an existing access road that you turn in to go up to the waste management offices on Turkey Hill. That driveway will remain, but there will be no truck traffic using that entrance. All trucks coming into the site and leaving with finished goods will leave off on the Q Road where the cursor is now. So the inbound raw material, which comes in on that road anyway to go to the waste management waste scales, would simply turn in that first entrance. And the first square of that building, where that solid line it is essentially a enclosed concrete tip floor. The trucks would dump the load on the tip floor. We would, a loader would then take that material and load it into our fully automated sorting process, somewhat like a MRF if you've ever been to a material recovery facility. The machinery then extracts the paper and the plastic that's usable for our process from that material and returns the other material that's in the load back into a automated system that loads into trailers, and those trailers then exit the site and go to the landfill. So essentially for every ton of material that comes into the tip floor, we extract 25% of that ton as usable material. The other 75% will go back as it would have to the landfill. For finished goods products at the end of the line, you can see the other two where the cursor is now. There will be a warehouse at the very end of the building, and finished panels will be loaded onto trucks that will use that entrance and turn right out of the building and go back out toward the highway. We anticipate approximately 19 trucks per day of finished goods leaving the facility.
Okay.
Did I answer your question, Scott?
That was fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good question, Scott. Al?
I have none, Dan. I'm
Okay.
good.
No problem. Doug?
I'm good, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions this time. I mean, obviously, the wetlands issue pushing this building back, is causing an issue to have to mitigate wetlands and to that back down there. So that would be the
In
only question.
addition, there's the leachate line that was mentioned that runs down Q Road. And if we can't obviously encroach on that, we'd have to relocate it and move it, which again is a really big job to do that. The site, other than the offset, is really an ideal site because it doesn't interrupt the natural flow of inbound material. It's a long site, as you can see, which is good for our process because it's a continuous, the material comes in one end and comes out the other as a finished product. If we have to build it in a square, it means the material has to turn 90 degrees all the time in the manufacturing process, which is not very efficient. So the site itself lends itself well to our manufacturing process.
Yeah, thank you. At this point, we're going to ask if there's any public comment.
We have no public comment.
No one loaded, great. And Matt, we didn't receive any written correspondence about this petition through the township. Email were written?
No correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Any further board comments, questions at this time?
I'm actually with Waste Management.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I couldn't see.
I do have, excuse me, I have Scott on the line. He's representing Waste Management, property owner.
Okay, great.
We need to bring him in at this time?
Yeah, he'll need to be sworn in, state his name for Karen and everything.
All right, honey, he just dialed in. I'll bring him in right now. Hang on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, he's in the room right now.
Good evening, Scott.
Yes, how you doing?
How are you? We're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter right now. If you could state your full name, spell it if need be, and then you'll be sworn in.
First name is Scott. Last name is Perrin, P as in Pat, E-R-I-N.
Now, the next voice you hear will be our court reporter swearing you in, Scott.
And Mr. Parent, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Scott, all you. Mr. Parent, yeah, you can give your testimony or speak.
Yeah, I just was joining the call since I'm representing Waste Management as the property owner, and I'm here to answer any questions through the proceedings, and I apologize for being a little late to the call.
Not a problem. Yeah, Mr. Murphy had summarized everything, I think, pretty well for us. We had some board comments, questions. I think every one of our questions so far was handled in turn by the panel here. If the board has any further questions, you feel free to jump in. We're just kind of going through that process right now. We had no public comments and no correspondence with the township. So do we have any further board comments at this time? If not, Mr. Murphy, I'd ask you can please continue.
I have no other testimony or witnesses to present. I'd move my exhibits and we would rest and ask the board if they were comfortable to render a decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion, Dan.
Thank you.
I move the application of Continuous Materials LLC requesting a dimensional variance from section 209-32C, parens 2A, and 209-29G, and table 5, attachment 7 of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to allow the proposed building setback to 30 feet instead of the required 100 feet setback at the property located at 1000 New Ford Mill Road, Marsville, Pennsylvania, 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Dan.
Thank you, Doug. Scott, if you could hold the board, please.
Myself, yes. Al?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Bill? Bill's muted.
We might have lost Bill.
Yeah, I think we did lose Bill.
Dan?
Yes. Keith, should we wait for Bill to come back on?
Yeah.
Obviously, he's been part of this whole testimony. And
Yes. I see his name up.
Yeah. I don't know if we can reach out.
Diane, can you see if you can reach Bill?
Maybe we can get him to call in if he's having a video or computer problem.
I still see him in the call. We just don't have any contact with him.
I'm trying to reach him now, okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Board, I have Bill on my cell phone. And I don't know if I put him on speaker, if he can place his vote. I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle this.
Yes, if you could do that, Diane, that's acceptable.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, just let me make sure Bill has heard what he's heard, that there is a motion.
Okay, Dan, hold on 1 second. Let me put it on speaker first so he can hear this. Okay,
Thank
hang on. Okay, Bill, can you hear everything? Go ahead. Okay, can you
Hey,
hear?
Bill, so right now we have a motion to approve, and we're going through the roll call vote here. Are you comfortable? Did you hear that portion of it?
Yes, I did. I lost my computer. I don't know why, but my vote would be yes to approve.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, okay. So that'd be a unanimous vote of for approval. Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
Keith, you're satisfied with that? Excellent.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Good night. Happy
still
holidays.
here?
Yeah, I'm going to try and come back in now.
All right, he's going to try and come back in now. I
Okay,
don't know.
we'll hold off until we see him.
Okay. Dave, you hear that? Don't bring anybody else in.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I just rebooted.
Okay.
I'm standing by waiting for Bill to come back in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bump petition number 4 next for Lincoln Storage. Don't bring anybody in yet. this is another shifting of the agenda, and then we're going to hear petition number 3 at the end. So since they are the most evidence heavy petition.
I didn't get that. So should I start bringing in number 4? Was that?
No, let's hold off until we get Bill in the room if we can.
Okay.
We'll give that some time and see what happens. If need be, I mean, we could let them know the last 2 petitions that if we need to move forward, it'd be up to them. as to whether or not they'd like to continue because a tie vote would be denial. So we'll give Bill a little time here to get it back. And I know what it feels like to be frantically trying to get back into one of these meetings. It's not fun.
Of course. Is there a number I can call in? I can do it by phone.
Yes, I'll give you that number. It's on the agenda. Hold on one second. Where is the agenda?
And I have it here. Oh, wait.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I don't.
It's 1-929-205.
92905.
205.
Oh.
6099.
I'm going to call in right now. All right.
Okay,
All right,
yeah.
yep, good luck.
Knock it off. Okay,
All right. Thank you.
all right, bye. Ay, ay, ay.
Maybe one day we'll be back in the room. Start putting up the plexiglass right now so we can get in there. Make it bulletproof if you could too, please, while you're doing it. I guess if we could just double check to make sure that petition number 4 is ready to go. We don't want to get caught napping on that and try to bring them in and then not be ready. So if they're all ready to go.
They are
well,
ready.
obviously-
They're in the waiting. They're in the waiting room and ready.
Great, thank you. Sometimes if you're expecting to be after a very long one, some people might not be signed in and ready.
Would you like me to bring them in and swear them in while we wait for Bill?
I'd rather him be just a whole part of the whole thing. There's no reason
Okay,
to rush it.
no
Make
problem.
sure he gets in. Maybe we could text Bill that login code. I don't know if sometimes it was hard to hear.
Way ahead of you there, Dan. I'm texting him now.
Awesome, thank you. Great minds think alike. I must need some like dead air music or something.
On this case here, what is the required setback at the front that they're actually asking for a variance on? They're looking for 30 feet?
Hang on one second.
Isn't it supposed to be 100?
Yeah. I'm trying to look it up now. I believe it to be 100, but I'll double check. Matt, do you know what it is off the top of your head?
Yeah, this is for petition number 4.
It'll be Lincoln property.
957 Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. The minimum front yard setback is 100 feet. The
Yeah, it's
request-
500 Lincoln.
Okay, well, what are we doing next? We doing Lincoln Storage, or we doing?
I thought we're doing Wawa next, aren't we?
No.
Here I am talking now. I said that we're gonna jump number 4 to the next one, Lincoln Storage, because it's less less evidence heavy than the Wawa.
Yes.
Since we moved to petition number 5 for the same reason.
My bad.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so 957 Lincoln will be
Okay.
for Lincoln Storage LLC. Will be
So they're,
next.
they're
as soon as we get-
both have 100 feet back.
Yeah, they would both be 100 feet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I think most of us on this board, when we had some others in front of here for car dealerships and everything else.
It doesn't ask me anything yet.
Well, don't worry, Bill. We're waiting for you to get rolling.
I'm good.
All right, you all good? Cool. Okay, let's load in Lincoln Storage if we can.
Oh,
Welcome back, Bill.
Well, I'm phone and video.
It seems to be working. We're good.
It'll work.
All right, we're moving them in now. Stand by.
Thank you.
Bill, you're going to have to mute one device.
Hold on. That better?
Yes. Okay, so here we are. It's petition number 4 on the agenda. It's actually number 4 tonight too. for Lincoln Storage LLC, 957 Lincoln Highway, Marsville, PA, requesting a use variance to allow self-storage facility and the following dimensional variances. Section 209.23.h parens 1 to allow more than one principal building per lot. Section 209.23.h parens 2 to allow parking within 30 feet of the front yard.
Dan, you're gonna have to hold up. I can't hear you.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So you have to mute the phone or your computer, Bill.
Leave the video. Yeah, I muted my computer.
All right. You have the TV on or a browser open with the video playing in the background?
Yes.
Oh, you have to mute that too.
It's all good now.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Dan, the last I heard was to allow parking within
30 foot of the front yard parking setback, and section 209-23.g to allow the building coverage to exceed the allowable maximum coverage of 30%. Good evening. I guess, Mr. Prime, are you the representing attorney?
Yes.
Excellent.
Chairman, members of the board.
How are you? Do you have some of your witnesses that you'd like to have sworn in at this point?
I do. I have civil engineer. He's listed as Donald, DEI, if you see him on the screen, and then also Mitch Feldman. He's the contract purchaser and developer of the property. So we'll start there.
Is Mr. Rodriguez being sworn in also, or will you need him to be sworn at some point?
This is going to speak. I don't believe so. It's a possibility. We could swear him in case he needs to address anything. But
it doesn't hurt, yeah.
Anything on direct.
Okay. Our court reporter will swear you guys in now.
Okay, do you all swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, Donald, what is your last name?
Haas, Haas.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Mr. Prime, now we're going to mark some of the board's exhibits for the petition.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB 1. 2 will be the impervious calculation sheet. 3 is a letter from BEI Engineering at the top titled Lincoln Storage LLC variance requests. 4 will be the notice to applicant's attorney of tonight's meeting and also the Zoom notification. 5 will be proof of publication. I'm sorry, strike that. 5 will be 7 pages containing 7 colored photographs, one of which shows that the property was posted as required. One second. 6 will be proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times showing that this matter was published November 24th, and then again December 1st, 2020. 7 will be the zoning plan submitted with the application. And that is the board exhibits. Mr. Prime, if I can ask you a couple questions. I received your correspondence sent to Ms. Bree here at the Township. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark, if you don't have any pre-marked exhibits, what I'd like to do is just mark your letter dated December 7th as A1. That will also include the certificate of service that you have submitted. I'm going to mark A2, the notice that was included in that letter. And if I can ask you, Mr. Prime, what I've marked as A2, the notice, did that notice go to the adjoining or abutting property owners?
It did.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. And well, I'm going to mark A3, which are photocopied certified mail receipts, and there appears to be 6 of them. I'm sorry, there appears to be 10 of them. And what I've marked as A2 went to all those property owners listed on A3.
Yes.
Okay, very well. Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notice has been satisfied and this matter can proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Okay, Mr. Prime, it's your case. What's going on?
Mr. Chairman, as I said, my name is Tyler Prime with the firm of Prime & Bell. Represent the applicant, Lincoln Storage LLC. As previously stated, we are seeking a use variance approval to construct a self-storage facility with accompanying dimensional variances. The site located at 957 Lincoln Highway is in your HC zone. And obviously, if the application is granted favorably, we will have to proceed to full land development application for the Planning Commission and supervisors. If acceptable to the board, kind of for a quick start, since it's a little different than us bringing all of our boards and showing them in person, one of my witnesses has a picture of the site as it sits today. I'd like to show, if I could, via screen share. And then we have a short video. It's a concept video that'll show what the site will look like once it's fully developed, how it'll function and how it'll appear from the road. I think it'll give the board and any members of the public a much clearer idea of kind of what we're looking at in a little less abstract manner. So if that's possible, that'll just take up a few minutes and then we can proceed. Okay, so this is the existing site as you see it from Lincoln Highway. It's a Google map view. I'm not sure the exact date. We're not submitting this as evidence. Like I said, this is just for the edification of the board. If anyone hasn't been by the site recently, any members of the public or anyone who's curious as to what the exact location is and what it looks like. And then next would be, I could show, or Mitch, if you have it up, you could show our video. If you guys want me to do it, I can. Okay, so that's a preview, kind of shows what the site will look like. It's obviously conceptual in nature, but gives a pretty accurate interpretation of how the site will function. If it's acceptable to the board, I'd like to start with our engineer. Donald, if you could, since you've already been sworn, just give the board a brief overview of the site and your direct testimony regarding the variances that we're seeking tonight.
Okay, when we approached this project, we looked straight away to the stream and the floodplain that's at the rear of the property. The northeast corner of the property is stream cuts just onto the corner, and then there's a floodplain that cuts further into the property. Since we have submitted this application, we've also done a wetlands study, and the wetlands cuts even further into the property. The design is to pull all of the building, parking and everything kind of up front towards the highway to minimize any impacts to the stream, the floodplain, the wetlands, because we want to be environmentally sensitive with this project. So we've placed the parking in the 30-foot setback area. It is further away from the street than the existing parking on that site where people could park up against the fence that you saw with the existing site pictures from the Google Maps. We will be providing the appropriate landscape buffer yard, a 10-foot buffer yard in there, clean the property up, dress it up, make everything a lot nicer than what you have existing. For the dimensional variance for the building, we're also bringing that closer in. It's a 100-foot setback. I think we're looking for somewhere around 70, 75 feet setback from the property line there. That's also to kind of square everything up further away from the buildings there. It is less than the existing building is dimensionally a nonconformity now. So we are actually improving the existing site conditions in that regards as well. To allow more than one principal use on the lot, it's kind of the nature of self-storage facilities. You have separate buildings, and the way the ordinance is written, it would be separate principal uses. It's just to meet this user and to allow this use, you have to have separate principal uses on the site. For the highway commercial use, self-storage is not a use by right. We're requesting a variance for this. The project meets the definitions and the purpose of the highway commercial as is stated in the ordinance, which is for businesses which, due to the nature of their activity, must be located with adequate street frontages along major roads and have a service radius generally wider than the immediate neighborhood. This project site, it kind of meets all of those requirements. It's very appropriate use for this. There's another self-storage use already in the highway commercial up the road. So we're not changing any sort of nature of the neighborhood. This fits in with what's already present in the township.
Thank you, Mr. Haas.
Thank you, Donald. Additionally, I think it'd be beneficial if
Mr. Prime, we're having a real hard time picking you up. Our court reporter needs to be able to hear what you're saying. I'm not sure if you have a mic issue or if there's any way we could up that so we can hear you better.
Is my microphone working? Can you hear me?
Yes, Bill, I can hear you.
All right, good. I'm back up and running.
Great. Wait, Mr. Prime's dialing in.
He's coming back in.
Okay.
He's going to have to mute one of the devices, the computer, preferably.
Mr. Butte, if you could.
Yep, I got it.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
You guys can hear me now. Yeah, sorry about that. We have had a new microphone put in, and I'm probably the least tech savvy person on earth, so there's nothing I can do about it besides call in and try to deal with it tomorrow. So
yeah, this works great.
Good. Okay. What I was going to say obviously Donald gave you a brief overview of the variances and the justification. I just think it would be beneficial if Mitch, if you could chime in, just explain to the board perhaps a little bit about what you do. Feldman's approach to self-storage is a little different than what you might be used to elsewhere, what you're typically used to seeing. I think it'd be beneficial if you could hear that, kind of what he's planning for the township.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Mitch Feldman. We're really excited. Thank you very much first for hearing us. We're excited about this project, and we try to deliver a sort of the most institutional quality upgraded storage facilities around. So a lot of times we're used to those kind of orange roll-up doors, and they're sort of older sort of style. This has, I don't know if you can see from the picture, but there's the first two buildings are fully climate controlled storage. So a very, very small part of this is that I think only maybe 20,000 square feet. The back two buildings are non-climate controlled, but we deliver climate controlled where when you come inside the interiors, it's all white. We put music in the hallways. We purposely have that special covered feature in between the two buildings so that you can come during inclement weather when it's raining or snowing or it's hot, where you can unload and load in the comfort of shade. And then also we have in the front we have another enclosed area for loading. Everything is gated, so we really try to focus on first class institutional quality where you're comfortable to. I kind of say it, where I'm comfortable to send my wife, where she's not kind of creeping around the corner, and we use all LED lights inside, so it's very bright and clean and fresh. So I think you can see by the render, I don't know if we have more renders that we could put up, but we try to make a really nice facade in the front, make it appealing and attractive. So it's a modern storage facility is what we're trying to accomplish here. And I guess Tyler's trying to share his screen, but so we try to build them first class, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Feldman.
Okay, so those pictures are pretty much what you'd be looking at. That's a pretty accurate interpretation of what the facility will look like. I think at this point, if we could move to any comments or questions from the board, that's about it in terms of basics, what we have in terms of justification of the variances, as well as an overview of the facility and kind of how it'll function.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prime. We're going to do that now. So we're going to open it up for some board questions. Bill? Any questions? No, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The only question I have was on the impervious surface. Are you going to meet that? Is that one of your
We are impervious.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
This is Donald.
Okay.
We are meeting the impervious surface requirement is the building coverage requirement, and it's more or less the overhangs and the extended roof areas is the building coverage difference for us.
No, I look forward to something to clean that area up. That's all I have.
Thank you. From what I'm seeing here, Mr. Haas, that you're decreasing the impervious by about 8%, or it's going to be 8% lower than the maximum.
Correct, 8% lower.
Or about 5% higher on the building coverage, plus minus. Okay. Scott?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the rendering. It looks really good on the rendering. You're parking up front. You're looking for that 30-foot variant, just having 30 feet up front. How far is the parking from the roadway now at that front area?
It is approximately, it varies.
You have to identify. I can't see who's speaking. I can't see you.
Yeah, we're not on gallery view, so it's hard for Karen to see who's speaking. So if you could identify.
Can we stop the screen share, please? If we're
Sorry
done
about that.
with the screen share.
Okay.
Okay, Karen, this is Don.
I can go back to that. This is Mitch Feldman. I can go back to that Google Earth picture if you want to see that, what it is now.
Just a rough idea there as to how much, what's existing there on the site now.
It varies 10 to about 15 feet. Because people could park right against the fence along there. The parking was ill-defined on that previous site, but it's about a 10 to 15 foot buffer between the road line and the paving on the interior.
Okay, so you're going to maintain that 10 foot?
We're going to increase it.
Increase it?
Yeah.
Is there any plantings or anything that go in there?
Yes, it'll meet the requirements in the landscaping section of the ordinance for buffer yard. I believe it's a 10-foot plantings for up to 4 feet high shrubs and some trees.
Okay.
It's going to get dressed up and cleaned up. So.
Is that entire property going to basically be gutted out and all the blacktop and everything repaved over everything there?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Al?
Nah, Dan, I have nothing. I see what they want to do. I agree with Bill. Clean the lot up. That'd be great.
Excellent. Doug?
No, I have nothing, Dan.
Okay, yep. Yeah, I have no questions. Those really clear testimony. I appreciate that. At this point, I'll ask if there are any public comments or questions.
Yes, we have one public comment. I'll be bringing in, stand by. I'll be bringing in Ron, stand by.
Okay. Good evening, Ron. We're going to, for all public comments, we ask that everybody be sworn in. Your mic is on mute now. If you could state your name for our court reporter and spell it if appropriate, then we'll get you sworn in, okay? Nope, you're muted, sir. So if you hover over your screen, you can click that mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Ronald C. West, RONALD C WEST.
Okay, Ronald, we're going to have you sworn in by our court reporter now. The next voice you hear will be hers.
Mr. West, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. West. Feel free to make your comment now. Or
I own the property next door at 965 Lincoln Highway. I mean, I've done a lot of work there. I guess my main concern is where's all the stormwater going to go? There's a lot of impervious surface, and we have a big problem with the Martins Creek as it speaks. From what I've seen in their previews or their little sketch, the video they want to give, stormwater don't go uphill. And we're on a real bad, probably 25-degree slope all the way down. And the whole back floods. As a matter of fact, Martins Creek, since they've built Penn's Point, their stormwater, along with the apartments, they put a French drain in. It looks like the Delaware River, and it's eroding more and more of the woods away every time it rains. I mean, they don't have nothing in there for a catch basin or even a retention basin. How about an underground stormwater retention basin? Because that's going to be a lot of stormwater.
We do have room in the rear of the property, the northwest corner, and we are looking for at the stormwater currently to drain it into that location. We're going to meet all of the ordinance requirements for stormwater discharge from the site. In addition to that, we're going to be under DEP requirements because our disturbance is over an acre. So DEP Southeast Region and Bucks County Conservation District will be reviewing the plans for appropriateness for erosion control and management of the stormwater.
Mr. House, could I ask a brief question here? Do you know what is the impervious coverage of the lot right now?
If you just give me a second, I might have a.
Thank you.
My files aren't opening. My connection to our VPN has dropped. We are increasing it from existing impervious coverage, but we are keeping it below the maximum allowed by the ordinance.
Right, yeah, you're not asking for relief for that, I understand.
No.
Just maybe help us get a bit of a sense of,
Are you still there?
Yes, do you have any additional questions?
Well, you're going to cover the entire back of that yard where it's all grass now with pavement and two 9,000 square foot buildings. So basically the entire back of the place that is all grass from the building back to the woods, which is approximately 150 feet of grass is, well, there is a small building there, a little Kwanzaa hut. All that grass, all them two little buildings are going to be completely gone. And there's going to be two 9,000 square foot buildings there with the remainder of it all blacktop. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
I'm just concerned about the stormwater because I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars next door cleaning my facility up as well. I've even helped Mr. Patel clean their place up. The guys next to me trying to get the erosion under control. It's just my main concern because it's continuously eroding the woods out. And with that amount of impervious surface, there is a calculation to put an underground retention pond or detention pond in to capture all that stormwater. And out back is the place now, there is nothing but grass. So you're going to remove all that grass and put blacktop and basically 18,000 square foot buildings are.
Correct. It will be managed in the basin. The basin will be designed to limit the flow and slowly release it instead of just dumping it all out into the creek. We'll also be looking at what we can perform as far as infiltration on the site. That will depend on the testing results. But we will manage the site as the ordinance requires, and we will not increase stormwater runoff rates from this site and provide anything that would be detrimental or add to any problems if there are any existing problems. When the site comes in, everybody will be happy with the results there. The part of the land development process that will go through with the township after the zoning hearing here will address all the stormwater requirements and will have to meet the requirements and be reviewed by the township engineer.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. West, I think to help with your concerns, this moving forward will have to go through land development, and in land development, they will address the water runoff issues, stormwater. So a lot of your concerns will be addressed, not here tonight in front of the zoning hearing board, but definitely by the township in land development.
No problem. I'm just concerned because I know I have a big problem next door and all that water from the facility next to me runs down the back of mine, which I've cleaned and spent a lot of money. I've totally cleaned the place up next door, as anybody in the township will see. That's all. My other issue is at this end of the street, the township knows there is no city water. We do not have city sewer. I mean, does everybody know this? There is no running water, no sewer. We're on well and septic at this facility. From Truck Smart all the way down, the entire road is well water and septic sewer.
We are aware of that, and we are designing for that. I don't know if the township of the zoning hearing board has any questions regarding that.
I don't think any board comments, questions about the water facilities for the storage facility. Mr. Feldman, any comment for that?
Well, just, I mean, self-storage is known for having very minimal impact. There's, it's not like an apartment building or even an office building where there's multiple bathrooms. We really have 2 bathrooms, that serve the office or customers. And there's really no, there's very minimal impact. I mean, same thing with cars, auto. A self-storage facility is one of the least impactful on utilities or anything. I mean, I think we can manage it. We're aware of it and we're going to manage. And I mean, also, for our neighbor, I mean, we come in, we try to be good neighbors. And I mean, I'll next time I'm up there, I'll come knock on your door. And, if there's any issues, you can have my cell phone and, call me directly. I mean, we don't come in here to, hit and run. I mean, we come here for the long haul and we want to work with the cities. We try to put a good product together. You can see by the renders, we make an effort to really show, to kind of show off what we're doing. And you'll see as we're working with you and you're our neighbor and we want to work with you. And, if there's ever any issues, you come call me and, we resolve it. And I think that's the way to do things.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just concerned about the sprinkler system. If there's one going to be put in, we have no city water or sewer down at that whole end of the road.
Right.
I mean, you still need to have public facilities, restrooms.
Right.
That's all I'm asking.
And they would have to be, permitted by the township, and obviously any standards that they would have to adhere to would have to be, they'd be done through the township with checks and everything else. They're not going to put a bathroom in that just leaches onto the ground or anything. I mean, they'll be sure that we'll be putting them through the paces with that. So, and a lot of these questions can be answered, like our solicitor said, at land development, land planning. There'll be other opportunities for you to get in front of some of those meetings. Mr. West, I think you brought up a lot of good points. I think that Mr. Haas, Mr. Feldman had appropriate answers for them. Hopefully they're helping you clear up, and sounds like they want to do the right thing by the neighbors there and make something nicer in that space.
Mr. Miles, I'm all for it. Like I said, I'm really concerned about the stormwater. If you yourself would go take a walk back there while it's raining, you will see that it looks like the Delaware River. It is so bad that it's coming up, and that's my only concern. I still have another acre of property that I can no longer use because of it. And it's progressively been getting worse, and I'm just concerned about it. That's all. That's my only concern.
Well, thank you, Mr. West, for bringing forth this testimony. Board appreciates it. Anything else you'd like to say, sir? I'm not trying to cut you off or anything.
I'm okay.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
I'd also just add that Mr. West will get copies of our notice before we go to the planning commission. We can get him copies of the plans if he wants them in advance. We have no issue going through this once it's fully designed and showing him how the site will operate. It's completely fine.
Mr. West, this may be a good opportunity to hopefully maybe improve that. I know that there may be going to be what looks like on paper a little more impactful, but this could be a good opportunity for a company that's going to come in to maybe write some of these things that are going on there now, possibly. Wouldn't pin that on them, but they're definitely not going to make it any worse. And that's really beholden to them as the applicant to this petition and wanting to put this in. They can't bring no harm to more harm to the area, obviously. So
no, it looks great. It looks fantastic. I have no issues at all except for the stormwater.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, you're free to listen in the rest of this meeting, Mr. West, if you like.
Okay.
Any further public comment? Anybody else?
No more public comment.
Okay, thank you. And Matt, did we receive any correspondence through the township for this petition that we should be aware of?
Can you hear me?
They can now, yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no correspondence.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Mr. Prime, anything further for us?
Nothing further, just to ask to have my exhibits previously marked as applicant's exhibits moved as evidence, and that would be it. Unless there are any further questions, if there's anything else we can answer for you, that would conclude our testimony.
Okay, great. Yeah, any further board comments or questions for our panel? Or yes, Scott.
Yeah, just wondering, you have that proposed boat, vehicle, and RV storage down the back. Because it's so close to the natural water runoff back there, is there any provisions to make sure that those vehicles stay orderly and not leaking fluids and in good service back there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't, the RV and boat storage is almost like there's just a small strip back there where we might put them. I'm not even sure if we'll ultimately have cars or anything back there, but it's the type of vehicles that we would typically store would not be sort of abandoned vehicles. It would be more of larger RVs, things that are, I guess, more used.
Seasonal.
Nothing, just not like old car storage or things like that.
Okay.
We watch for that. We don't want it to be a junkyard. We're building a first class facility, and we're gonna, keep it as such.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from our board? Okay. Without any further questions or any further testimony, would someone like to make a motion for this petition?
Make the motion.
Thank you.
I move that the application of Lincoln Storage LLC requesting a use variance and dimensional variance from Falls Township zoning ordinance at the property located at 957 Lincoln Highway, Morrisville, Pennsylvania, 19067, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented in the zoning hearing board, be granted. This motion to approve includes the following requested relief: sections 20923, allowing a self-storage facility; section 20923H1, allowing more than one principal building per lot; section 20923H2, allowing parking within 30 feet of the front yard parking setback; and section 20923G, allowing the building coverage to exceed the allowable maximum coverage of 30%.
Right, do we have a second?
I'll second that, Dan.
Okay, thank you. Scott, pull the board, please.
Myself, yes. Al?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Dan?
Yes. Okay, your petition has been approved. Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank you very much for everything.
Yeah, Mr. Feldman, if you want to stay on somehow with Mr. West and exchange maybe information, you could possibly help him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a great night. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just give Mr. West my cell phone number?
We're going to have the moderator put you guys back out.
Okay. All right, that's fine. That's fine.
I'll put them in a separate.
What do you got for a cell phone?
Here,
They're going to move you guys to another room, Mr. West, and then you guys can handle that bit of information.
Thank you.
Yep. Is everybody good? Does anyone want to take a break before we get Wawa in here?
Just give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time. Our moderator, we can hold up bringing everybody in for a moment.
Sure, we'll do that.
That's it.
If everyone could please mute their microphones, that would be great. Everyone mute.
Okay.
No, bring us in. Everyone's live. Everyone's in the room.
Okay, good evening. This is originally marked petition number 3, KA at Fairless Hills LP, 500 Lincoln Highway. There's requesting a large amount of variances here, requesting the following dimensional variance of permit construction of a 5,585 square foot convenience store with 8 multi-product fuel dispensers. To permit impervious coverage of 83.5% within the highway commercial district rather than the maximum permitted impervious 70%, and parking 0 foot adjacent to a lot line rather than the 10 foot. Permit accessory fuel pump canopy within a front yard rather than in the side yard as required. Permit 1 wall sign of 67.71 square foot and 1 wall sign of 36.85 square foot rather than the maximum permitted 32 square foot. And permit canopy signs to be internally illuminated rather than the required external illumination. Permit 315 feet between motor vehicle fueling stations rather than the 500 foot. To permit trash facilities to be located outside of a building. And to permit air pumps 21 foot from the ultimate right-of-way rather than the required 50 feet. To permit maximum impervious coverage of 82.9% within the SC district rather than the maximum permitted of 75, to permit maximum building coverage of 33% within the SC district rather than the maximum permitted of 30%, and to permit parking 0 foot adjacent to a lot line within the SC district rather than the required 50 feet. To permit 650 parking spaces for a shopping center use rather than the 1,100 parking spaces. To not provide clustered plantings 4 foot in height and 10 foot in width. We have a lot of different variances for a lot of the different, 2 different highway commercial and the existing shopping center. Obviously, it's going within the shopping center, so it's going to fold into a couple different zoning districts. Okay. We're going to get the whoever witnesses need to be sworn in now.
Okay, who's all being sworn?
So we have 2 witnesses and potentially a third. So it probably is best to swear all 3 in. They would be Mark Kessler on behalf of the applicant, KA at Fairless Hills, who is with me in the room this evening. And Justin Giannotti, who is the project engineer from Dynamic Engineering. He's also in the room with me this evening. And then Mike Riddell, who is joining us by Zoom, who is a real estate engineer with Wawa.
Okay, Mr. Hirsch and Jacob don't need to be sworn in tonight, Ms. Von Spreckelson?
That's correct.
Okay.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, just if Mr. Kessler or Mr. Giannotti could spell their last name, please.
Sure. Kessler.
Okay.
Giannotti is Geonnotti.
Okay, thank you.
Turn the heat down.
Okay, great. Now we will mark our board exhibits.
Mr. Chairman, we'll mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal as ZHB 1. 2 will be the false township notice, Zoom notification to the applicant. 3 is a hardship letter from the applicant, which includes exhibits of its own. 4 is the zoning plan submitted with the application. 5 is proof of publication of the Bucks County Courier Times, showing this matter was published November 24th and then again December 1st, 2020. 6 are 4 colored photographs on 4 separate pages, one of which shows that a property was posted as required. 7 will be the impervious calculation sheet for Lot A. 8 will be the impervious calculation sheet for Lot B. And if I can ask the solicitor, do you have pre-marked exhibits before I mark certain matters?
I do, and I had sent them to you via email a week ago.
Yes.
I also copied the township clerk. They are exhibits. It was contained in an exhibit booklet, and they comprise A1 through A12.
Okay.
I can go through them if you'd like me to.
Not necessarily. What I'm going to do is your last one is A12. I'm going to pick up with A13. A13 will be the affidavit of service, which was included in your packet. I know you're going to do that also, but we'll just, an abundance of caution, I'll mark these as exhibits also. So A13 will be the affidavit of service. A14 will be the abutting property owners list, and then A15 will be a letter dated 11/23/2020 from Eastburn and Gray. And if I can ask you, Ms. Freckelstein, the letter that I marked as A15, that notice went to the adjoining or abutting property owners. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct, contained on the property list.
Okay, and then that letter sets forth tonight's meeting participation by Zoom. And Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied the appropriate notices have been satisfied. This matter can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Billingmeyer. Okay, Ms. Von Spreckelson?
Yes, good evening. Julie Von Spreckelson from the law firm of Eastburn and Gray on behalf of the applicant KA at Fairless Hills LP. Because we are asking for a number of variances and they're on 2 separate properties, I feel it appropriate that I give a bit of background with regard to this application and how we got here this evening. So if you bear with me through that, I would very much appreciate that. So the applicant is the legal owner of the property located at 500 Lincoln Highway, which is at the intersection of Arlene's Avenue. The property as it exists today comprises 15.3 acres, is zoned SC Shopping Center Commercial District, and is improved with a 188,458 square foot shopping center and a 6,020 square foot standalone restaurant that's located in the parking area of the shopping center lot. There's also associated parking. There's 792 spaces on the site as it exists today, and there's some lighting there as well. So those are the existing improvements. The property also has numerous existing legal nonconformities, which are really driving the majority of these variances. And those include impervious coverage, number of parking spaces, building and parking setbacks, maximum lot coverage, and plantings between parking areas and lot lines or street lines. So those all are existing nonconformities at the site as it is today. So what we're proposing is the redevelopment of the northeast corner of Lincoln Highway and Arlene's Avenue with a 5,585 square foot Wawa convenience store with fuel dispensing facilities that are accessory. And that's really why we're doing this and why we're moving forward with this development, is because it's necessary for the revitalization of the shopping center that has had and continues to have many vacancies. And that's basically due to, as you're probably well aware, the market increase in e-commerce and online shopping. That, coupled with the COVID health crisis, has really decimated the shopping center industry and the retail brick and mortar industry. And so we're proposing this as a way to prevent another shopping center bankruptcy from occurring. We believe that this will bolster the viability of the shopping center, and it will attract other tenants into the shopping center to fill those existing vacancies. So how we started with this application, we had a staff meeting with the township staff and consultants. We explained our project in detail, where we were heading, and we discussed with them the steps in order to get there, because this does require a number of approvals, variances from the zoning hearing board, as well as a number of approvals from the Board of Supervisors. So after discussion with the township staff and consultants, we determined the best way to move forward, and that was to start with a rezoning application and a subdivision application. And those applications were submitted to the township and then granted by the Township Board of Supervisors on October 19th, 2020. And what that allowed was a 2.04 acre portion of that property to be subdivided from the main parcel, and that's at the northeast corner, again, of Arlene's Avenue and Lincoln Highway. So we were permitted a minor subdivision of the property, and in addition, rezoning of that subdivided lot from SC district to the HC district. And those approvals are contained in applicant's A2. That's the ordinance 2020-3 and the subdivision resolution of approval number 2020-32. So based on those approvals, we are now allowed to move forward and are proposing the development, again, of a 5,585 square foot Wawa convenience store with 8 multi-product fuel dispensers that are accessory, 82 parking spaces, and associated lighting. We're increasing landscaping on the site, so we're increasing green area on the site, and we're also adding stormwater management facilities, which is going to help as well. The existing standalone restaurant will relocate into the vacant space within the shopping center, so that helps with a vacancy in the shopping center, and that building will obviously be demolished to make way for the proposed Wawa. Lot B is going to retain the existing shopping center and the parking that's on that site. So that's what we're proposing, and in order to continue to move forward, we are requesting the dimensional variances that the chair outlined in the opening statement. And I want to highlight that, this is a permitted use. The use is now permitted. The convenience store is permitted by right. The accessory fuels is permitted by conditional use. So we're going to have to go back again before the Board of Supervisors for conditional use approval for the use. But what we're asking from this board is solely dimensional variances. And I know this is a savvy board. I know this board is extremely experienced. And I know that this board knows that in terms of dimensional variances, a lesser quantum of proof is required to prove hardship, that the board may consider numerous factors, one of which is the economic burden on the applicant if the variances are denied. Another is the financial hardship on the applicant to have to bring the property and improvements in conformance with the zoning ordinance requirements. And then lastly, you can also consider the characteristics of the neighborhood. And this is a commercial corridor, so this use fits right within the character of the neighborhood. So with that, I did take the liberty of sending an exhibit booklet. I'm hoping that you have it in front of you, tabs A1 through A12. I hope it was distributed. I can run through those tabs. I'll run through the tabs quickly. If not, we can certainly reference those and show the exhibits as we proceed with the testimony. So just very briefly, A1 is the affidavit of notification of zoning application and zoning hearing to abutting property owners. A2 was the zoning application with deed, hardship letter, ordinance 2020-3, granting the rezoning, and subdivision resolution number 2020-32, which granted the subdivision. A3 is an aerial photograph of the existing property conditions. A4 is the street view photos of the existing property conditions. A5 is the CV of Justin Giannotti. A6 is the rendered zoning plan prepared by Dynamic Engineering. A7 is the signage location plan prepared by Dynamic Engineering. A8 is the signage detail plan prepared by Dynamic Engineering. A9 are building and canopy elevations with floor plan and trash enclosure detail prepared by the architect dated December 1st, 2020. A10 are photographs of the Getty Station. A11 is a decision in Hatboro Borough versus Buckingham Retail Properties. And A12 is a parking assessment prepared by Dynamic Traffic, dated December 1st, 2020. So those were the exhibits that comprise the exhibit booklet. And with that, I would like to begin by presenting the testimony of Mark Kessler, if that's acceptable.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, would you please introduce yourself to the Zoning Hearing Board and give a bit of background on the company?
Sure. My name is Mark Kessler. I'm the Director of Asset Management and Construction for the Klein Group. I've been in that position for the last 9 years, and I've been in the commercial real estate industry for 33 years. We're located in Florham Park, New Jersey. We are retail owners of shopping centers, strip centers, a few net lease properties throughout New York, and retail condominiums in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
And what's the Klein Group's relationship to the applicant?
The Klein Group is the managing agent for the property, and Jacob Klein, the president of the Klein Group, is a managing partner of KA at Fairless.
And KA Fairless Hills owns the property subject to this application, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and can you please provide a brief history of the leasing of the shopping center?
Sure. The leasing of the property has been very difficult from the beginning. Our specialty is finding great real estate, and if it needs renovation, better leasing, better management, that's what we bring to the table. But shortly after we purchased the property, Pathmark filed bankruptcy. Shortly after that, the dollar store was bought by a different dollar store. They left the property. Tuesday Morning was at the property. They left. They closed their doors and eventually filed bankruptcy. We also have 42,000 square feet that used to be Macy's, and that was vacant before we bought the property, and it's still vacant today. We hire national brokers, CB Richard Ellis, Marcus and Millichap, to help us do leasing, because we really think the center can be brought back to be a vibrant place of business. However, the only new lease that we've been able to sign since 2014 is the Funzilla lease. This is a recreational use. They took 61,000 square feet. As Julie's mentioned, the viable retailers for this type of center are dwindling. So we're trying to be creative, going out after alternative uses such as recreation, possibly medical, possibly even light industrial in the back of the building. The traffic generated by these alternative uses is not that heavy. That's a positive. The detriment to that is that those types of retailers don't usually produce the effect of morphing where the various customers go to different retailers that a standard retail service operation handles. As of today, there's a Retro Fitness in the property. We believe they're going to probably leave in the spring when their lease is up. If the Wawa's approved, they may stay. Since we bought the property in an effort to revive it, we've conducted numerous types of renovations and repairs. We've done a lot of parking lot repair. We have restriped. We've worked on the facade of the building. We have added color. We've repaired all the sidewalks. We have, at this point, probably replaced almost all the lighting in the center. The wall sconces, the under canopy lighting, the pylon signage, the pylon lighting, and the wall packs in the back of the building. As much as we've tried to upgrade and maintain the center, it's very difficult. We're not covering expenses, but we do feel it's best for the neighborhood and the property to have Wawa in occupancy. We feel if the variances aren't granted, trying to keep the center viable, not becoming blighted or falling into bankruptcy is going to be very difficult. We don't want to be the next Preet. As you may have heard, they recently filed bankruptcy. Justin from Dynamic will give you much more detail, but the variances that are being discussed are many pre-existing non-conforming uses, and many are related to our company owning both lots. We have been proactive in the hopes of this approval. We're already in the process of building out a new restaurant space for Aroso, the Italian restaurant on the pad site right now, to move into. They're going from about 6,000 square feet down to 3. We're trying to help him survive. The pad, we've already spent close to $400,000 in building out his restaurant. The pad in the front of the building is worn, old, and it's not efficient. It really doesn't make financial sense to renovate and keep it. The cost to try and convert the building would probably be more than if we knocked it down. I guess having a strong tenant such as Wawa, we feel, will help the leasing of the additional vacancy of the 55,000 square feet that's available now. It could bring in another $500,000 in revenue to the building. It will allow us to bring this building into what I'll call the year 2020. Remember, it was probably built in the early 60s. Wawa's occupancy will be a great turnaround step in really helping us revitalize this center.
Thanks, Mark. The financial hardship, if you had to bring this property into conformance with the zoning ordinance requirements, what would be the financial hardship in doing that?
I think it would be very difficult. You'd almost have to knock the building down and start from scratch.
Is that because of the existing nonconformities on the site?
Correct.
And that would be economically infeasible, would you say?
For sure.
Okay. Moving on, Justin's going to go through many of the dimensional variances, but one of the variances being requested is for number of parking spaces on the shopping center lot, not on the Wawa lot, because we're compliant with that parking on the Wawa lot. But on the shopping center lot, we need that variance. Can you describe the uses on the lot in terms of parking and parking situation in general?
We have never had an issue with parking. Even at the time when Pathmark was in occupancy, the dollar store was there, Tuesday Morning was there. There was never an issue. I can attest to that during our last 5 years, since 2014 when we bought the property. Retro Fitness's high time is first thing in the morning and sometimes in the evenings. Big Lots has a steady flow of customers in and out all day long. The Funzilla customer, being a recreational use and for children, they're at a children's schedule, so they're often afternoons. Most of the time, their heavy traffic is on the weekends. Wawa's a quick in and out, so it works really well with the rest of the property. But in my time affiliated with the property, there's always 200 spots available, at least.
At any given time?
At any given time.
Okay. So do you have any concerns at all then about the functioning of the shopping center property if the number of spaces is reduced from 792 to 650?
Not at all.
Okay. And what would you say that type of impact this development will have on, and you already did allude to it, but on the viability of the property, the viability of the property on the community and on the community this use would have if the variances are granted?
The development will be immensely helpful in helping to keep the property as a viable center, a good rateable for the town, This approval will allow us to continue to invest in the redevelopment, repositioning of the property, and keep it relevant as an ongoing center. The approval will help us attract additional tenants for the vacant 55,000 square feet. The Wawa is going to create jobs. Wawa, it could be 30 or 40 jobs, maybe part-time, but being created by Wawa. We just need some help here. And my feeling is what we're asking for, there's no detriment to the community since we own both lots.
Thanks, Mark. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Kessler.
Okay, we can either go forward with your testimony or open it up for some board comments now, whatever you guys are more comfortable with.
Either way is fine for us.
Maybe we'll have to break this up a little bit. We'll open it up for some board questions now. Bill, do you have any questions at this point? And you are muted, sir.
No, I'm very familiar with his location. I have no questions at this point.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, just for the area there, are there going to be any additional? You're going to have a lot more traffic and improving the area there. Do you plan on keeping up Orleans Avenue and that section of Route 1, Lincoln Highway, to do any improvements on that roadway at all?
Yeah, that'd be
Sure. That's more for my testimony. I'll get into that a little bit further when I'm called upon. But to answer your question, yes, we are working with PennDOT. There are a series of improvements being requested of both PennDOT and of your traffic engineer. We're going to be compliant with all of those.
Okay. Your front area where you're going to be near the roadway there. It looks like that's going to be, I saw something written up that you're going to be increasing some green space there.
Yes. And by developing this property, we're going to be pushing, the parking right now is actually located directly on the property line. We're going to be pushing the parking back about 30 feet, and all that green space is going to be provided in front of the Wawa parcel right now. So yes, we are going to be.
You want to show the rendering?
Yes. Are we able to show the rendering at this point, or do you want to wait for my testimony?
If we can keep it maybe to Mr. Kessler's testimony so far.
That's fine.
Well, just on the brief overview, maybe make it a little easier. That way we can insert.
That's all I have.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Al, Doug, you guys, any questions? You want to wait for?
I'm fine, Dan. We can move forward.
Yeah, Dan, I have nothing. I have no questions.
Okay. Yeah, we'll move on with Mr. Giannetti's, I guess, testimony if you want, Ms. Sprinkleson, at this point.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I would like to qualify Justin first as an expert in civil engineering, land use, and zoning. I can state that he is a professional licensed engineer in the state of Pennsylvania. He has been for 12 years. He's been working at Dynamic Engineering for the last number of years. He's also testified as an expert witness before this very zoning hearing board and was accepted as an expert. His curriculum vitae is tab 5A5 of the exhibit booklet. So we would ask that he be qualified in that regard.
Yes, this board has already recognized Mr. Giannetti as an expert witness, so we have no problem accepting him into this position as an expert.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, you were engaged by the applicant with regard to this project, is that correct?
That's correct.
So what was the scope of your engagement?
Our engagement was to prepare the zoning plan that was before you guys tonight, and as well as the subdivision and rezoning maps, which were previously before the Board of Supervisors.
And in doing so, did you prepare a zoning analysis of the variances that would be required?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And did you also visit the property and the surrounding area as well?
Multiple times, yes.
Okay. So let's start with the pre-subdivision existing property conditions. So can you run through that real quickly with us?
Sure. Do you want to share the aerial or just walk through it?
If we could share the aerial, that might help.
Sure. Let's do this one. All right, is everyone seeing the screen now?
Excuse me, before you get started, Mr. Giannetti, if anybody else is going to speak during this time when we're sharing a screen, since we're out of gallery view for our court reporter, if you could just announce who you are before you start speaking, that'd be great.
Sure. All right. This is Justin Giannotti still speaking. So just to walk through, this is the existing conditions as of today. You'll see the thick white line is the existing parcel line. The white line in the interior of the site was the recently approved subdivision line. The Wawa parcel in question is going to be within that 2.04 acres where the cursor is being shown. You'll see this site is largely impervious. It's about 90% impervious in the current condition. The large shopping center building is shown where my cursor is as a upside down L shape. If we were to zoom in, you'll see that the parking is actually directly on Lincoln Highway. That's one of the things we're going to be improving as part of this condition. I'd like to call attention, we're talking a lot about existing nonconformities. There are a number. As far as setbacks are concerned, this property does have 2 front yards. So the existing building is nonconforming when it comes to front yard setbacks, rear setbacks, and side yard setbacks. Parking is nonconforming with all setbacks because of the parking being directly on the street. We exceed an existing condition. The maximum lot coverage by buildings is in excess of the 30% that is allowable by ordinance. The maximum allowable impervious coverage in existing condition is at 90%, where 75 is permitted. The front yard buffer depth and minimum parking requirements, driveways along Lincoln Ave, and minimum width of buffer for commercial uses are all existing non-conforming conditions, all of which we're going to discuss and are the basis for a lot of the variances being requested tonight.
And can you just briefly describe neighboring uses and zoning?
Sure. The neighboring uses are largely commercial. We are in the highway commercial district as discussed. So our frontage is on Lincoln Highway. You got commercial businesses beyond that. Immediately adjacent to us is banks and more retail commercial uses. This is upside down. This is actually to the south of us is a residential community, which we are providing. We're not having any improvements to the back end of this building whatsoever, and largely surrounded by commercial. I think is the best way to put it.
Okay, and so can you briefly describe the rezoning and the subdivision that was granted by the Board of Supervisors?
Sure. Just to build on what Julie expanded on earlier, as part of our meeting with the township staff, we were tasked with subdividing out the parcel that is going to become the Wawa parcel. And that, again, is that 2.04 acres in the front here. It bisects the existing Arosa restaurant, which is going to be demolished as part of this application. This parcel was rezoned to HC, Highway Commercial, which is consistent with the corridor of Lincoln Highway. There's a large amount of highway commercial properties. So this is consistent with the neighborhood, and that subdivision and rezoning was subsequently approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, and if we can move to the rendered zoning plan, I'm going to have you walk the board through what we're proposing for the site.
Go through them. Existing conditions. Okay, so this is the rendered zoning plan. This is just a colorized version of what was submitted as our zoning application. You'll see, as in the aerial, this building is unchanged. This is the commercial building, which is unchanged. Same with all the parking around the facility as it exists. Our subdivision line is shown in red on this aerial. You'll see it runs along this drive aisle, comes along the back, and we are proposing a 5585 square foot Wawa canopy out front, 8-position multi-position fuel pumps, and 82 parking spaces within that subdivision line. That is in excess of what Wawa requires and also what the ordinance requires for Wawa. I just want to make that distinction right now. As part of the subdivision and redevelopment of this parcel, we're actually reconfiguring some of these parking aisles to make it more conducive to the traffic in and out. This was at the recommendation of both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to provide safe access for this drive aisle coming in to eliminate some of the cross traffic this close to the intersection. One other thing I will call attention to is your Planning Commission requested that we meet the front yard setback from Arlene. So the Wawa building is set 100 feet off of the right of way for Arlene's, almost 200 feet off of the right of way for Lincoln Highway. And that was at the request of Arlene's, at the request of the Planning Commission, that we shifted that over to comply with the front yard setback. It was the recommendation of the Planning Commission that they would be more inclined, since this is such an overparked facility, to meet that front yard setback versus have in exchange for losing some parking on site, which we had a lot to give.
Okay, and this is a front-back entrance story.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. This is. There's going to be entrances on the front and back, parking all around the Wawa, with exception of this striped area on the, I'm going to say, the plan right, where it's going to be the loading zone for Wawa.
And the building is compliant with the setback requirements of the ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct. The building is compliant.
And the number of parking spaces?
Parking spaces is compliant.
Well,
Oh, it's 82 parking spaces for Wawa. Ordinance requires 31, so we are compliant with parking.
And have excess parking for that?
Excess parking.
Okay. And you stated that there's some landscaping proposed as well?
Yes. So if you remember the aerial, there was parking directly up to the Lincoln Highway, actually to the roadway. As part of this application, you can see all the green space that we're providing on both sides. This is, again, at the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and as just us complying, bringing this site into compliance or more into compliance with the zoning ordinance from the existing nonconformity. So this is all going to be green space. It's going to be landscaped, and it's going to increase the attractiveness of this facility because you're not going to have that parking directly up against the street.
And sidewalks as well?
Sidewalks will be provided. We're working with PennDOT right now, but there will be sidewalks provided and pedestrian upgrades at the corner of Lincoln and Orleans for increased pedestrian safety.
And even though stormwater management is really a land development issue, there is stormwater management facilities proposed for this site, correct?
That's correct. As part of the land development process, we are providing full stormwater management, which will comply with both township requirements and PADEP for MPDS. So no stormwater on the site whatsoever right now. Almost 15 acres of pure impervious. We're going to be providing stormwater management, which is going to significantly help some of the drainage issues in this area.
And will any of the existing nonconformities be eliminated?
A number of the existing nonconformities will be eliminated or improved by nature of the subdivision and the development. Just the nature of this improvement, these are going to turn into variances, which we're going to walk through one by one and show you how they are not significant in nature. They're just a nature of the redevelopment of this parcel.
Okay, and before we get to the variances, can you just briefly go through the signage that's being proposed and where it's going to be located? And you can show it on the, I think that's exhibit A7 and A8.
Correct. So just to orient, there are two freestanding pylon signs on this property right now. There's the one for the entire community or the entire shopping center, which is right here. And there's also a sign for the Arosa restaurant, which is in front of the restaurant. We are proposing, obviously, to keep the existing shopping center sign and propose a Wawa pylon sign and some canopy signage and signage on the Wawa building, which I'll walk through step by step right now. This is just a more zoomed in view. This is our signage detail sheet, as Julie mentioned, as part of the exhibit package. The signage that is going to go on the building, this is going to be the building mounted sign. It's going to be on the front and back of the building. And the canopy sign, which we are going to discuss tonight too, is going to be internally illuminated. That's shown up here on the exhibits on the front end of the canopy, facing the street. And there's the Wawa pylon sign that's going to be placed out front, which is all compliant with zoning regulations.
Okay. And then, again, before we get to the variances, can you briefly describe the building and canopy elevations? And if you could use A9. Sure. And that also has a floor plan and it just has the trash enclosure.
Sure. So this is a rendering of the canopy. So you'll see this is a rendering of what's going to be proposed out there. You'll see the 8 fuel pumps and the canopy out front. We discussed the signage that's going to go on the front of the canopy as an internally illuminated sign. You'll see a elevation or cross-section view of the canopy. Very standard Wawa. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Wawa's canopies, but this is what is going to be proposed here. This just shows you some of the building materials that you're also probably familiar with some of the newer Wawas. Trash enclosure is going to be located at the rear of the site. It's like one of the variances which will be discussed further, but it's going to be a masonry enclosure with a PVC fence, fully locked door and gated. Going backwards here to the elevations here too. There you go. Again, this is the elevation view of the proposed Wawa front. It's a front back store, which means that there's going to be doors in both the front and back of the store, parking front and back as well. Signage, as discussed, there's the building managed sign right on the front, and these are just some additional drawings of the rendered exterior view.
And then the floor plan is also contained on that exhibit, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this is the floor plan, which is, again, a pretty standard Wawa floor plan.
Okay, so let's turn to the variances, and let's start out by discussing Lot A, or what we call the Wawa lot, and go through the variances that we are requesting with regard to that lot.
Sure. Lot A, it's the Wawa convenience store lot. The first variance we are requesting has to do with impervious surface. Now, I discussed the existing conditions being 89.8% impervious. There's actually going to be a 10,000 square foot reduction in impervious on this site when you look at both lots together. Since we're subdividing the lots, it appears that there's an exacerbation of a increase in impervious surface. That's not the case. We're actually making the site better as a whole, but it's actually a variance due to the subdivision and due to the redevelopment of how we're forced to develop this property. I did note that there's additional green space being provided, which is an improvement, less impervious, and we are adding stormwater management, which this site doesn't have now. Another variance is pertaining to, it's section 209-23G, and then H2 is what I'm referring to, the permit parking 0 foot adjacent to the lot line rather than the required 10. Mr. Kessler alluded that both parcels are going to be owned by the same entity. As part of the subdivision line, we are not providing the landscaping or the buffer between the parking space and the adjacent lot line. That's to provide safe maneuverability between the parking lot. And it's an existing nonconformity right now that, again, it's just being exacerbated by this improvement.
And the only lot that's being affected by this is owned by the applicant.
Correct. They're both owned by the applicant. It's just the subdivision line. We're not providing 10 foot of buffer around that because that would then restrict maneuverability in the parking lot.
And there will be cross-access easements between these lots to allow for the free flow of traffic, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
2 is 209-34E for accessory buildings. We talked about the layout of the site. We're meeting the front yard setback for the building from both roads. In order to, we're asking for a variance to provide the canopy in the front yard. This is a requirement. This is state law. The store needs to have visibility of the pumps. It's not, since there's no attendance at the gas pumps, this is a self-serve facility, so they need to have full visibility. Because we're restricted by having 2 front yards, it's impossible not to place this canopy in the front yard. So just by layout and this being on the northeast corner of an intersection, it's going to be in the front yard. So that is a variance we're requesting tonight. The next variance has to do with signage 209-45Q5B and 6B1. It's to permit one wall sign of 67.71 square feet and one wall sign of 36.85 square feet rather than the minimum required 32 square feet. We showed you the signage on the exhibits, and these are just larger signs. It's not that they're not permitted. It's to increase site visibility. Lincoln Highway is a heavily commercial corridor, higher rate of speed, so we need to provide drivers with the visibility of these signs so that they can have the correct perception and reaction time to maneuver into the site, and it's not a last-minute reaction. It's the signs are not out of character for the neighborhood, and certainly not out of character for Lincoln Highway, and that's that one.
And they're proportionate to the size of the building as well.
They are proportionate. We did show you the elevation there. They are proportionate to the size of the building. As a supplemental to that, to permit canopy signs to be internally illuminated rather than external illumination. This is the Wawa sign on the canopy. It needs to be internally illuminated. If we were to make that externally illuminated, it would cause additional glare, which could cause issues with site safety and driver safety along Lincoln Highway in Orleans. The next one is 209-50 and G1A and C, and this is to permit a motor vehicle fueling station within 500 feet of another motor vehicle fueling station. We did provide photos of the Getty gas station located 315 feet away. The purpose of this ordinance is to prevent the proliferation of like uses of gas stations. Wawa is not a gas station. It is a convenience store that has accessory gas sales. This is not a Sunoco. It is largely a convenience gas station, a convenience store with accessory gas sales. The Getty station that we are within 315 feet of is strictly that. It does not offer any convenience sales whatsoever. It has a number of pumps which are actually non-operational, and about three pumps that are operational at any given time. So we're asking for a variance from that relief to the extent that it is required, because we feel that we are dissimilar from that gas station. In addition to that variance, it's to permit trash facilities to be located outside the building, and to permit air pumps 21 feet from the ultimate right-of-way rather than the required 50. To start off with the trash is going to be located at the rear of the store. It's going to be a remote trash enclosure. As I said, it's fully enclosed. It's going to be masonry with a gated front. This is the new standard. It is the new industry standard. It is required for sanitation purposes, and it also allows for them to have a smaller store because they don't have to maintain the storage inside, and allows for recycling and commingling of recyclings and trash to be handled at this site. It also reduces the amount of times that trash needs to be picked up too, which is also a benefit to the community. The air pumps are going to be located near the canopy in the front. This is not a standard gas station where you have a gas pump located or air pump located that you pull up to and you might be affecting a drive aisle. Wawa has two air pumps, 2 designated parking spaces, and we already testified to the fact that there's going to be in excess of 30 additional spots on the site where people could stage if there was a waiting time. The intent of this ordinance is to prevent stacking that would prohibit, maneuverability around the site. This will never happen here, so this is the most logical location for those gas pumps or for those air pumps, and we see no detriment to the community having them there.
And do you see any safety concerns with having them 21 feet from the ultimate right-of-way rather than 50?
No, not at all. No, they're going to be fully contained within the parking lot, and there's screen space around them, so no, there's no safety concerns at all. Moving on to Lot B. A lot of these variances are sort of repetitive for the existing shopping center. So the 20927F and G2, this has to do with impervious surface as well. So 89.2 is what we're requesting when the maximum permit is 75. Again, we're reducing the overall impervious on this site, and we're providing stormwater and additional green space. So this is really just a matter of the subdivision, making it exacerbating the number, not necessarily the magnitude. Let's go here. The maximum building coverage. Again, the existing nonconformity, this site is already over in maximum building coverage. So the subdivision is then, we're at 33.5. So we're exacerbating the nonconformity, but we're not having any improvements whatsoever to this building on this site. So no building additions at all. Okay, and there is also the 0-foot parking setback. Again, it's just the opposite of the original from the interior lot. We're having parking located immediately adjacent to this lot line. Again, same owner. There's no implied hardship, and this is just for the safe circulation of this site. And there's no detriment to the overall parcel or surrounding community. Off-site parking requirement to permit 650 parking spaces for the shopping center rather than the required 1,100. So your ordinance requires by square footage 1,100 parking spaces for this use. Mr. Kessler already testified that he's never seen the parking lot full. To further support this variance, we actually did a traffic study. We had our traffic engineer perform traffic counts on a Friday and Saturday, actually right after Thanksgiving and then the Saturday after that of this year, and recorded the amount of cars during the peak hour from 11 to 5 p.m. The results of that are included in the A12. And just to summarize, just to give you, so we have 650 spots that we're proposing. The peak parking demand was 155 parking spaces that was required. And we understand that there's some vacancies in here, so we did correct it for the vacancies. Even after correcting it for the vacancies, you're 221. So 650 parking spaces for this lot is more than enough. We don't think that they will ever be filled up. And if it ever becomes an issue, there was a previous land development application which actually allowed them to construct additional parking behind the building. We don't want to propose that right now because it's green space and we don't need it. So if it ever becomes an issue on this lot where parking is an issue, obviously management and ownership is going to make sure that there's enough parking, and that parking lot will be constructed and we'll come back in for that. But our traffic engineer provided that there's more than enough parking. And even if we wanted to inflate that for COVID, which I know some of you had concerns with, we're still significantly underparked and are overparked in this area that the variance is not going to be an issue. Lastly, off-street parking and loading and landscaping. This is to not provide cluster plantings 4 feet in height, 10 feet in width between parking areas and lot lines and street lines. Again, this is an existing nonconformity. This doesn't exist today on this site. And just by subdividing, we do not think it is necessary or wise from a site safety and site circulation standpoint to provide that 10-foot wide planting buffer between the two uses. Same owner, and it would actually impede the safe circulation of this site.
And that's for both?
That's for both A and B.
Okay. And Justin, will the dimensional variances, if granted, alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
Not at all. It's consistent with the quarter and the neighborhood, which is largely commercial.
And will the dimensional variances, if granted, substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent parcels?
No, not at all. It's commercial in character, same with the neighborhood.
And will the dimensional variances, if granted, pose any threat to the public health, safety, and welfare?
Not at all.
And are the dimensional variances requested the minimum variances that will afford relief?
Yes. No, I think we harped on the fact that this is a lot of existing nonconformities, and we're actually trying to improve the center as an overall.
Thank you. That's all I have of this witness.
Thank you, Ms. Von Sparkelson. Do you have any further witnesses to testify?
I have Mike Riddell in reserve in case there's any operational questions. He would testify more to that, or if you needed to, more testimony to expand on any of the variances that we're requesting relating to the Wawa.
No problem. If he was just going to be in rebuttal testimony, that's fine. I just didn't want to open it back up for any board comments or questions if there was going to be any testimony brought to light forward of that. But if you're comfortable with it, we can probably get back into our board comments and questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, Scott.
I have nothing else at this time, Dan.
Okay, great. Bill?
The only thing I have is I think it's good to help take care of a blighted area like this. As we all know, ever since the super high was put back in years ago, it killed this end of Falls. And any bit helps. That's all I have.
Thank you. Al?
No, I have nothing, Dan.
Doug?
I have nothing as well, Dan.
Okay. I have no comments, questions. I think it was very well covered by your engineer and the owner of the center there, the management of the center, I mean. Do we have any public comments, questions at this point?
We have no public comments.
Okay. Matt, did we receive any correspondence through the township?
No correspondence.
Made light of, thank you. Okay. Ms. Von Sparkelson, at this point, if you have any further testimony to bring forward?
I have nothing further. I would just ask that my exhibits be moved into evidence.
So be it. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments from the board, I think it's appropriate at this time that we'd ask for someone to make a motion for this petition.
I'll
Scott,
make the motion.
thank you.
I move that the application of KA of Fairless Hills LP requesting the following dimensional variances be granted to permit the construction of a 5,585 square foot convenience store with 8 multi-product fuel dispensaries at the property located at 500 Lincoln Highway, Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania 19030, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board. 1, Lot A, Wawa Convenience Store with fuel dispensing facilities, Section 209-23G and 209-23H. 2, to permit impervious coverage of 83.5% within the HC district rather than the maximum permitted impervious coverage of 70%, and to permit parking 0 feet adjacent to the lot line rather than the required 10 feet. Section 209-34E, to permit the accessory fuel pump canopy within the front yard area rather than the side and rear yard as required. Section 209-45Q5B and 209-45Q6B1, to permit one wall sign of 67.71 square feet and one wall sign of 36.85 square feet rather than the maximum permitted of 32 square feet, and to permit canopy signs to be illuminated internally rather than the required external illumination. Section 209-50G1A and C, to permit 315 square feet between motor vehicle fueling stations rather than the required 500 feet, to permit trash facilities to the location outside of the building, and to permit air pumps 21 feet from the ultimate right-of-way rather than the required 50. Lot B, the existing shopping center, Section 209-24F and 209-24G2, permit maximum impervious coverage of 89.2% within the SC district rather than the maximum permitted 75%, to permit maximum building coverage of 33.5% rather, or within the SC district rather than the maximum permitted 30%, and to permit 0 parking feet adjacent to the lot line within the SC district rather than the 50 feet. Section 209-42H12, to permit 650 parking spaces for the shopping center use rather than the required 1,100 parking spaces. And lots A and B, Section 209-42B1, to not provide clustered plantings 4 feet in height and 10 feet in width.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry, Scott, pull the board, please.
Myself, yes. Bill,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
and Dan.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone, for your
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
holidays.
happy holidays, everyone.
Have a good night.
Yep,
Good night.
you too.
Night.
Scott, thanks for reading that.
You're welcome.
I tried to break down as much as I can to make it easier to read, but
That was a lot.
I don't know if
It
there
is
is
what
a
it
way.
is. You know?
Yeah, no doubt. Keith, I guess we're not meeting this year.
I know. I was going to say once, I don't know if we have everybody else in here, but I was going to say, usually this is our time to go out.
I know, right?
Somewhere. Hopefully we
Well,
can make
I have one more day of mandatory quarantine here, so yeah.
Well, hopefully we can make up for it in the future.
Yeah, we'll see what next year
Look forward to
brings.
that.
Yeah, it'll be worth it when we get there. Excellent.
Maybe
So,
the Wawa will be done probably by the time we get out.
yeah, I'll buy you a smoothie.
We've not adjourned yet. Just
Yeah, we have not. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're off the record. All right, we're off the record now.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Everybody have